A very good afternoon to you and welcome to Lunchtime News, coming to you live and direct from the Newsfirst studios here in Colombo. I'm Joel Outscoon. Let's first take a look at the headline-making stories for this afternoon. Chairman of the Tangol Pradesh Sabha and 4 others sentenced to 20 years of rigorous imprisonment for the murder of British national Khurram Sheikh. Black box of the downed MH17 flight recovered. Full and transparent investigation should be launched over the crash of the Malaysian Airlines flight. Statement from the UN Secretary General Ban Ki-moon. Israel launches ground offensive against Gaza. Let's now take a look at the stories in detail. We are starting off today's lunch news with a headline-making story across the globe. A Malaysian airliner bound to Kuala Lumpur from Amsterdam was brought down over eastern Ukraine yesterday, killing all 295 people aboard and sharply raising stakes in a conflict between Kiev and pro-Moscow rebels in which Russia and the West back opposing sides. Meanwhile, according to international reports, the black box of the downed MH17 flight has been recovered.
Describing the disaster as a tragic day in a tragic year for Malaysia, Najib Razak said the investigation must not be hindered in any way. The plane, now known to have been carrying 298 people, crashed in rebel-held territory near the Russian border. Both sides in Ukraine's civil conflict have accused the other of shooting it down with a missile. The Boeing 777, with the call sign MH17, was flying from Amsterdam to Kuala Lumpur. It is the second disaster suffered by Malaysia Airlines this year. Flight MH370 disappeared en route from Malaysia to China in March and has still not been found. In a statement, Malaysia Airlines said MH17 was carrying at least 154 Dutch nationals, 27 Australians, 43 Malaysians, including 15 crew. Other passengers came from Germany, Belgium and Philippines and Canada, with the nationalities of 41 people yet to be confirmed. Several of those on board, it is not yet clear how many, were heading for a major international conference on HIV/AIDS in Melbourne, Australia. Other airlines have announced they are now setting flight paths to avoid eastern Ukraine, while Ukraine authorities have declared the area a no-fly zone. Multiple reports from Washington cite unnamed US officials as saying they believe the plane, which had reportedly been flying at more than 30,000 feet, must have been brought down by a sophisticated surface-to-air missile. The UN Security Council is to hold an emergency meeting on the disaster this morning in New York.
What you're just about to witness is a conversation posted by the internet by the rebels who purportedly shut down flight MH17. Now, the conversation was also broadcast on a number of international media stations. Now, Newsfirst cannot independently verify the contents of this dialogue.
Только что сбили самолет, группа минера за Янакиево упал. Сейчас поехали искать и фотографировать сбитый самолет. Дымится. 30 минут назад где-то. Да, майор.
Значит, самолет рассыпался в воздухе в районе шахты Петропавловской. Первый 200-й. Нашли первого 200-го. Была женщина. Да, гражданский. Да, Саш.
Ну что у вас там?
Короче, стопудово гражданский борт.
Понятно. А этот, как и, народу много там?
Да пиздец. В обломки прямо во дворы падали тут. Вот так вот.
Борт какой?
Да я еще пока не разобрался, потому что я не был возле основной части. Я только вот смотрю там, где начали первые тела падать. Там остатки внутренних кронштейнов, кресла, тела.
Понятно.
Вот так.
Из вооружения есть что-нибудь?
И вообще ничего. Гражданские вещи, медицинские ошметки, там полотенце такое, туалетная бумага.
Документы есть?
Да. Индонезийского студента есть. Из университета Томпсона,
По самолету, сбитым в районе Снежного Тереза.
Ну?
Это оказался пассажирский. Упал в районе Грабова. Там море трупов, женщины, дети. Сейчас казаки там смотрят это все дело. По телевизору передают вроде бы как этот Ан-26 украинский транспортник. Но, говорят, написано на нем малазийские авиалинии. И что он делал на территории Украины?
Ну, значит, завозили шпионов, их нахуй. Понял? Не хуй, сейчас война идет, блядь.
In a reaction to this story, Malaysian Prime Minister Najib Razak has demanded swift justice for those responsible if a Malaysian airliner that came down in Ukraine was found to have been shot down. His views were echoed by a number of other state leaders as well.
Malaysia Airlines has confirmed that the aircraft did not make a distress call. The flight was carrying a total number of 295 people, comprising 280 passengers and 15 crew members. Malaysia is unable to verify the cause of this tragedy. But we must and we will find out precisely what happened to this flight. No stone will be left unturned. If it transpires that the plane was indeed shot down, we insist that the perpetrators must swiftly be brought to justice.
Obviously, the world is watching reports of a downed passenger jet near the Russia-Ukraine border. And it looks like it may be a terrible tragedy. Right now, we're working to determine whether there were American citizens on board. That is our first priority. And I've directed my national security team to stay in close contact with the Ukrainian government. The United States will offer any assistance we can to help determine what happened and why. And as a country, our thoughts and prayers are with all the families of the passengers wherever they call home.
Well, it is a terrible crime. If this is the case, it is an unspeakable crime. And obviously, it reflects abominably on the people responsible. Now, we don't know at the moment what the situation is. There are all sorts of reports, all sorts of claims being made. If it does turn out that this plane was brought down by a surface-to-air missile, that is an unspeakable crime.
With respect to the Malaysia Airlines disaster today in Ukraine, I'm closely monitoring the reports along with the International Civil Aviation Organization or United Nations agency. There is a clear need a full and transparent international investigation. For the moment, I offer my deep condolences to the families and loved ones of the victims and people of Malaysia. Thank you.
Moving on to a story that made local headlines, Thangoil Pradesh Sabha Chairman Sampath Vidanapathirana and 4 others suspected who were convicted of the murder of British national Khurram Sheikh were sentenced to 20 years of rigorous imprisonment today. After 33 days of trials, the verdict was issued by the Colombo High Court Judge Rohini Valgama.
The first, second, third and fourth respondents in the case were sentenced to 20 years of rigorous imprisonment. The fourth respondent was the chairman of the Thangoil Pradesh Sabha, Sampath Vidanapathirana. The 4 respondents were also ordered to serve 20 years of rigorous imprisonment for the gang rape of Khurram Sheikh's girlfriend Victoria Alexandrovna. The respondents were also ordered to pay a sum of 3 million rupees to Victoria Alexandrovna as compensation. The 5th and 6th respondents in the case were acquitted of all charges. British national Khurram Sheikh was murdered on the 24th of December 2011 while his girlfriend was gang raped. 2 days later, the chairman of the Thangoil Pradesh Sabha and another individual was arrested in connection to the incident. The case pertaining to the incident was taken up at the Thangoil Magistrates Court and indictments were filed against 8 respondents. 2 respondents were freed of the charges and charges were then filed against 6 respondents in the Colombo High Court. 17 charges were filed against the 6 respondents, including the chairman of the Thangoil Pradesh Sabha. On the 22nd of November, Colombo High Court Judge Kumuduni Vikramasinghe granted bail to the 6 respondents in the case. Later, on the 9th of January, a warrant was issued by the Colombo High Court to arrest chairman of the Thangoil Pradesh Sabha, Sampath Vidanapathirana, as he failed to appear in court to sign bail papers. He was arrested on the 21st of January and was later produced before the Colombo High Court on the 22nd. He was then placed in remand custody. Over the past few months, the case was taken up before Colombo High Court Judge Rohini Valgama.
You're watching Lunchtime News on MTVsports. Still in local news, Minister of Fisheries and Aquatic Resources Rajitha Senaratne says that the first Tsunami and Climate Change Information Centre was established in Beruwala. He made this statement at an event held in Beruwala yesterday. The event was held to declare open the Naval and Fishing Information Centre as well as the new Beruwala Fishing Market. Sri Lanka did not have a disaster warning centre. The only way of receiving a warning was through international satellites. But today, with the opening of this centre, we are able to receive tsunami warnings. Warnings related to other natural disasters such as earthquakes and cyclones could be tracked through this centre. Once the information is received to this centre, we are able to spread the warning to the entire island. This information will be sent out to the disaster management centres and thereby to the media. The equipment in the disaster management centre does not have equipment of this nature.
මේ තොරතුරු ටික අපි අරගෙන ආපදා කළමනාකරන අමාත්‍යාංශ ඒකට ආයතනයට දීලා ඒ වගේම මාධ්‍ය හරහා හැමෝටම ලබා දෙනවා. මේ තියෙන උපකරණ අද ආපදා මධ්‍යස්ථානෙත් නැහැ.
A special dengue eradication campaign will get underway today within the Colombo city limits, targeting schools, state and private offices and religious establishments. The Chief Medical Officer of the Health at the Colombo Municipal Council, Dr. Ruan Vijay Muni, says that the campaign will be carried out by 600 personnel. Meanwhile, Dr. Vijay Muni added that the rapid increase of over 60% in recorded dengue patients have now dropped by 6%. A media briefing was held yesterday to create awareness on the 2014 UN e-Government Readiness Report. The event was held under the auspices of Minister of Telecommunication and Information Technology, Ranjit Siamlapitia. 193 member countries have been assessed since 2003 by the United Nations. Sri Lanka too has been assessed. We have been named as a country that provides the best public service in 2014. If we compare the rankings with India, they are ranked 44 places below us. Sri Lanka has got this position fast. We have been able to reach this position through the introduction of information technology into the state sector. Starting off with some sports news, it's cricket this afternoon. The third day of the first test between Sri Lanka and South Africa is currently underway at the Galle International Cricket Stadium. Yesterday, the Proteas declared their first test innings on a score of 455 runs for the loss of 9 wickets. Sri Lanka resumed their first test essay on an overnight score of 30 for no loss. Dale Steyn drew first blood when he dismissed Kaushal Silva for 8 runs. Kumar Sangakkara and Upul Taranga put on 59 runs stand for the second wicket before Sangakkara was bowled by Moel Mokel for 24 runs. Mahala Jayawardene was dismissed cheaply as he was trapped in front of 3 runs. At lunch on day 3, Sri Lanka were 104 runs for the loss of 3 wickets with Upul Taranga unbeaten on 65.